talk and to learn about immigration. So I'll be just going over a quick presentation to kind of walk you through immigration, how it works, what are the provincial programs available, and especially what supports are available to you as employers, also as to give you some resources that you can check back. After this webinar, you'll have access to that presentation, and you'll be able to click on those links to find the information again. So as Natasha said, I'm David. So I work with labor skills and immigration with the Immigration and Population Growth branch. And who here has used immigration before? You can just quickly say in the chat, just open your mic, just this little thing. Have you used immigration before? We're a small crowd, so don't be shy.
So we have one person that's raised their hand.
Yes.
Two. So a couple of people.
Couple of people. Good, good. So I'm going to be briefly talking about how immigration works in general. So, in Canada and Nova Scotia, so immigration is a shared responsibility between the federal government and the provincial government. So, but it is the federal government that have the lion's share of the responsibility. And there are three big classes of immigration in Canada: family, economic, and humanitarian and protected persons. And at the provincial level, we only engage in economic immigration. So we do not deal in the family sponsorship or in the refugees and asylums claimants. And under these economic immigration programs, there are federal programs, and also there are the two provincial immigration programs, the Provincial Nominee and the Atlantic Immigration Program, that I'm going to be talking about today. So before we dive into our provincial programs, there's a couple key things that you should be aware of and you should to mention. The first one is the NOC, the National Occupational Classification. So you've probably heard about NOC codes and tiers and 5-digit codes. Anyway, it's lots of things. Oh, and also we love acronyms. That's something we absolutely enjoy, is putting acronyms wherever we can. So I'll be referring to NOC, National Occupational Classification, NOC, NOC, as well as the tier, as you can see on the right-hand side of your screen. So tier stands for training, education, experience, and responsibility. Tier, and there are 6 different tiers. So what is that? So the NOC system is it's some sort of an encyclopedia of positions, where every position in Canada is defined in different tier, and in those tiers, each position has a 5-digit NOC code. So you can see tier 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The tier 0, 1, 2, 3, it's mostly there are positions that are considered like a higher skilled position, where tier 4 is like intermediate skilled positions, and tier 5 is usually entry level positions. So when using immigration and when advertising for your positions, what's important to know is how can you define the position that you want to fill, because that's something that you will need to be doing, because we go by these NOC codes to define what is a position and in what tier level it falls under. So to do that, you will go on the website, and there will be links on this in this presentation in the resource page at the end for you to go through that. So you can just filter it, find through what you call the position, to find it through their search functions. And what's important to do is, when you find a NOC code that matches, what your position you're hiring for, is to go into that NOC, the page for the specific NOC codes, and to go through the main duties. And the duties that will be listed there are the duties that should be performed in the position. And this is kind of how when to select this is the right NOC to be selecting for you. Because sometimes we employers can call positions different names, but in the end it just comes down to the same duties being performed. So usually I take the example of a call center. So sometimes the call centers, they can call the people answering the phones, maybe the client success the client success positions, or anything different, but in the end it just comes down to a call service representative, right? So that's why it's good to go to that NOC code webpage, check out the NOC that you would have selected, and check if the main duties are the ones that are actually related to the position that you're offering. Okay, that is a big piece. So it may take time. It may be very quick, depending it's very straightforward or not. And no, in the restaurant industry, usually in cooks are in the tier 2 or 3 category, where you have a bartender, usually like tier 4, or sometimes food and beverage servers, usually in a tier 5 occupation, as well as the food counter attendant and kitchen helpers. Okay, so now I'm going to be talking a bit more about the immigration programs. So the two programs that we have at the provincial level, they're the Nova Scotia nominee program and the NSNP, and the Atlantic Immigration Program, AIP. So I'll be referring to those with these acronym, NSNP and AIP, or PNP for Provincial Nominee Program. And as you can see here, there are some common requirements that employers have to meet before they can use those programs. And one of them is actually to be in active operations in Nova Scotia for at least 2 years. And the way we see that is with your registry of joint stock number. Like, have you registered as a company for how long? And so that's how you can prove that, as well as being in good standing with any provincial or federal health and safety regulations, as well as the federal immigration regulation and legislation. The other common requirements for both of those programs is that actually before you can even extend an offer of employment to a foreign national, you do need to advertise the position locally to make sure that there are no local Canadian citizens or permanent citizens or permanent residents that are here that could be that would be a good fit for the position. And in hiring foreign workers as well, they so the Department of Labor Skills and Immigration and the Labor Standards Branch, they would require any employer to actually apply for an employer registration certificate, which is it's an easy document to get. Just a form to fill out, send to an email address, and they'll get back to you with the document. Also, for most of these programs, so not all of them, most of these programs, if they're linked with a position being offered, so the job offered must be full-time. So we define full-time for immigration as a minimum of 30 hours per week. And it has to be permanent, so no end date, and usually it's year-round work. So all those programs, both of them, the end goal for these is for you to have a worker in the position that you're trying to fill, and for the worker to become a permanent resident of Canada. When using immigration programs, the provincial ones, there is most of the time an option to apply for a temporary work permit so that the worker that you've selected has the ability to come and start working for you while their permanent residency application is being processed by the federal government. So I'll explain a bit more on the recruitment side. What does that mean? So we are looking at you if you try to search, exhaust, posting your position and to see, well, have you tried hiring in the local market? What does that do? So there are plenty of resources that are available to you as well. As employers, there's like the Nova Scotia Work Centers, the contacts, the employer engagement specialists over there as well. There are settlement providers that have a pool of talent that are already here and already permanent residents. But if still you cannot find someone to fill the position, then we would ask you to post the position on at least 3 different media. And one of those media has to be national in scope. So, for example, you can be posting one media on the Job Bank, one on Indeed, and one on Career Beacon, for example, for at least 4 weeks. And if after those 4 weeks you still cannot find someone, or still cannot find there is no Canadian citizen or permanent resident to fill the position, that is when you could extend an offer of employment to a foreign national and then apply through our programs. And just a little thing to note that here is that these recruitment activities, they're not required if the worker is already working for you on a valid work permit. So let's say you may already have someone through an open work permit, and then they could be coming and they could start working for you because they have that ability. And then if you want to support them for their permanent residency, you wouldn't have to show the recruitment activities because they're already working for you on a valid work permit. So I'm just going to be talking a bit about, work permits. I say open work permit, closed work permit. closed work permit. An open work permit is actually a work permit that's on the document. There's a line that says employer-employeur. And on that line, if it says open or any, that means that the worker is able to work for any employer in Canada. However, if on this line there's the name of the employer, it's a closed work permit, and that means that they can only work for the employer that is listed on the work permit. What's good to consider when you look at a work permit is look at the expiry date as well. You want to make sure that you're not having someone whose work permit has already expired. Great. So the provincial nominee program. So this one has a couple of possible options there. So most of them have is like we call them the job-based streams. So it's streams that are based on a job offer that you would make to a potential candidate. And these are based on full-time employment year-round, and there are some conditions that the employee has to meet as well. So the two main ones that we have is skilled worker and occupations in demand. And both of them have the employee has the option to apply for a temporary work permit to allow them to start working for you, while the PR is being processed. So I'm going to go a bit more in the occupations in demand, because that's a program that's directly targeting occupations in your industry. So the occupations in demand stream is targeting specific occupations in specific sectors. But for you, like the food and beverage server, as well as the food counter attendant or kitchen helper and light duty cleaners are included. And for this stream, so it's a job-based stream. So you would have to be offering a full-time permanent job offer year round. But the candidate needs to meet those requirements. So they need to be between 21 and 55. They need to have 1 year of related work experience related to work experience that is related to the position. So that means, if someone's working in a kitchen, then a kitchen job makes sense. Whereas if someone has accounting background and is hired as a chef, we could question that, no, it's not related work experience. They would need to show they have enough language ability in either English or French, as well as the financial resources to stay in Nova Scotia. I mean, all this, for all the program that we have, we have application guides on our website. There'll be a link at the end to our website where you can find all of that. And on the application guide, there's a part for the employer that tells you, what you have to do as an employer to support a foreign worker into your businesses. So now, how does the provincial nominee program works? It's a two-step process. So the first one is at the provincial level. So this occupations in demand, for example, you're looking for food and beverage server. So you post your position, you can't find anyone. After 2 months of posting, you find someone that is not in Canada but that would meet the requirement of the position. So you offer them the job. So you give them a job offer, they sign it, and then they're looking at what should I do, and then you end up deciding that occupations in demand would be the right path for both of you. So as the employer, there's a form to complete. You add some documents, including the description of the position, the job offer that is signed, and all of this details. You give that to the employee, and the employee would upload all of that document along with their own application through to our office. All that is done online, so there's no paper anymore. They just log into a portal. They just put all that information, include what you gave to them, and then they apply. So this program is actually led by the candidate. So the candidate will be leading the application process. So they'll be the ones sending us the documents, and then if we do have a question, we'll get back to them, and we'll give them time to provide any more information or clarification if needed. Once the application is processed, and if it is approved, then comes the second step, which is for the federal part of the application process. So now the candidate goes to the federal level, to Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, IRCC, to apply for their permanent residency. So usually when they're nominated, they get 2 documents. They would get a nomination certificate, and with this one, they would apply at IRCC for their permanent residency. And at the same time, they could get a letter of support from us. And with this letter of support, they would apply for a temporary work permit. Now, there are some a bit of an extra step for the employer if a work permit is involved, but it's so if it is the case, as an employer, you would have to go on to an IRCC employer portal to upload a job offer, and then there is an employer compliance fee of $230 to pay, and then you would get a job offer number that you would give your candidate. So then when they apply for their work permit, they have three things: their work permit application, the letter of support from the province, as well as the job offer number that you have gotten from the employer portal IRCC. With that, so this is how IRCC kind of links all of that, links all the points together to allow them to have a work permit. On another note, too, there are both of our provincial immigration programs are free of charge. There's no cost for both employee or employer. The cost incurred at the federal level. So that's one of them. But there are also other ways to support. So I highlighted skilled worker and occupations in demand, but we have another stream that's called Nova Scotia Experience Express Entry. And this would be to support a candidate in a higher tier position, so tier 0, 1, 2, 3, that has like higher skilled work experience in Nova Scotia. So let's say you're looking for a cook, and you hire a student out of the NSCC or a university. They graduated, they have an open work permit, they can work for anyone. So you hire them as a cook, they work for a year for you, and then they could seek PR through the Nova Scotia Experience Express Entry. So they would have to apply to open an account with the Express Entry system of the federal government of IRCC. And then they would apply through the provincial nominee program. And the good thing with the experience is it's not based off of a job offer. It's based off the experience they already have in Nova Scotia. And for you as the employer, it's a bit easier to support because you would only need to provide them with a letter of reference to justify that they have been working for you in a certain position, and those were the duties for how long, for this much time, et cetera, et cetera. But no, the thing to remember is that there is not only one pathway. There's usually multiple pathways, and it's just a matter of picking the right one for you and the worker. Okay, so now that I've mentioned the Nova Scotia nominee program, I'll talk a bit more about the AIP, the Atlantic Immigration Program. So for this one, it used to be a pilot from 2017 to 2021, and in 2022, it became a permanent program. So in order to be using this program, an employee has to become designated by the province. And so it's an application to fill out. And once you're designated, you do not have to do that again. So then it just could be endorsing a candidate. What's interesting with this one, the AIP, is that well, there's no age restriction on the program, and it's also an employer-led program. So you, as the employer, are leading the application process at the provincial level. Another thing to consider too is that positions eligible for the AIP are from tier 0 to tier 4. So the tier 5, the entry-level positions, are not eligible through AIP, but they are through the Nova Scotia nominee program. So it's a matter of choosing which one works well, which one works the best for you. And the AIP has about a 3-step, but technically we can just put it down to a 2-step. So the first one is for the employer to become designated. That's the designation part. So once you've done that, you don't have to do that again. And one of the main differences between the provincial nominee program and the AIP is that bringing people is great, but ideally we want people to stay in Nova Scotia with their families and continue working here. So retention is key. So what we did is that we're encouraging employers to work with settlement provider organizations. So there are organizations that provide settlement services to newcomers, and they also have services for employers to try to give you the tools you need, to make your workplace a welcoming environment, and to understand cultural differences and how to make it work for you. So as part of that and the AIP, there are some training that an employer has to take to become a designated employer. And once you've done all that, then you would start advertising for the position. And then you move on to the second step, which is the endorsement. So then when you have a position to be filled, then you would submit an endorsement application per position, and then you would include information about the candidate. And that's where the settlement component really shines in, because the employee, the candidate, and their family will have what's called a settlement plan that being done from one of the settlement provider organization. And it's a document that you would sign. So it's great to understand what does that do? What do I have to do? What is how will that impact my relationship with the employee, with the business, with that? But it's also a great tool where you can learn more about diversifying your workplace and how can that work for you. And then if this is approved, then you move on to the third step, and this one is candidate-led. And again, it's with the federal government where they apply for a permanent residency, and they could also apply for a temporary work permit if needed. So like I said, settlement is a big piece of the AIP, and we do have settlement support in Nova Scotia. So they are available everywhere in the province. All of these settlement services are free of charge, and they are available in both French or English, or both. And so yeah, it's really a matter of connecting with the organization to see what they have to offer to you, to your business, and how they can help you support and welcome a newcomer in your business. So these are the support that are available for both you and your employee, but also we understand immigration is complex. It's not. It can be daunting to when you look at all the programs and all the different requirements, and should I go federal, provincial, and we use terms that you may heard of, and it could be quite scary. Like if you hear an LMIA, what's an LMIA? Do I need that? Don't I need that? So this is where we have support for you as well to navigate the process. So I'm part of the retention and attraction team of the Immigration and Population Growth Branch, and we're a team that are here to support you. And what's very important too is that we have community navigators. So all throughout Nova Scotia, there are community navigators that can help you navigate the process. So it's if there'll be an email at the end. So if you do have any questions, feel free to send an email and we'll connect you with the navigator in your region, so they can really help you navigate the process, understanding what is the what's the AIP, what's the PNP, what's working for me, am I eligible for this, how does it work, and answer pretty much the questions you have on immigration as well as on recruitment. But it's good to keep in mind that we do not give advice. We can only provide you with information and some links on where to find the information that you seek. And at the same time, we do not offer an employment services or settlement services. So it's good to keep in mind. When looking for talent, so we talk about immigration, but migration is important too. So there may be people looking for work in other provinces that you could be attracting into your businesses, as well as pool of talent already in Nova Scotia and ready for work. So that's why some settlement provider organizations. I'm just going to take the example of Iceland, the Immigrant Services Association of Nova Scotia. They have a program called Skills Match, where they could match you with people already in Nova Scotia, already permanent residents. You don't have to worry about the immigration process and are ready to work. But also international students is an awesome pool of talent, because they've came to study in Nova Scotia in Canada. And usually at the end of their studies, they have access to a post-graduation work permit. That's an open work permit that allows them to work up to 3 years, depending on the length of their studies. So it's a great pool to look for, as well as, and they even from the NSCC, so they usually have access to that work permit. But even if that doesn't work, so we do go on international recruitment missions, where it's kind of about selling Nova Scotia as a place to live and work. And what usually we employers are welcome to come with us, but most of the time you're more than welcome to send us job postings that we can take with us and present at those events to see if there would be someone that would be match what you're looking for. So for an example, next month, we're going to Destination Canada in France and Morocco. So, and we'll be going with the Economic Development Agency, so the regional enterprise networks and the partnerships. So if you do have a posting that you want shared at that event, you can either share it with us or share it with your local REN or partnership. So it's another way of promoting your business without having to physically go there. So we understand that it is time consuming, and so it's another option that's available into promoting the position that you need to fill. And finally, here are some resources, so you'll have access to that. And the end, all those are clickable links. But I want to point out the email addresses on the right-hand side. So if you do have any question, please feel free to send us an email, and we'll direct you to the local community navigator, or we will answer the question as best as we can. And on that, I'm going to hand it over to Megan, so to talk a bit more about the apprenticeship agency. Over
Perfect,
to you,
thank
Megan.
you. Hello, everyone. My name is Megan Pearson, and I am an industry training consultant with the Nova Scotia Apprenticeship Agency. The Nova Scotia Apprenticeship Agency supports cooks in their journey to Red Seal certification. We provide supports for individuals with non-Canadian credentials, including language accommodations for exams, which may include readers or translators. The Nova Scotia Apprenticeship Agency also has a group of learning strategists who work with apprentices and provide learning supports, tools, and pathways unique to individual circumstances. And we have partnerships and programs with organizations such as ISANS to support newcomers. We also, and if we can go to the next slide there, we also have a apprenticeship start program for employers. And give me 1 second here. And the support is for employers to register and employ apprentices as they complete their program. The START program is available to small and medium-sized businesses in Nova Scotia with 10 apprentices or less, including non-for-profit organizations and social enterprises. And funding for employers over the course of their apprenticeship program may be up to $25,000. And for employers who hire diverse apprentices, they may be eligible for up to $30,000, as that hiring and completion incentives are doubled to $5,000. And if you take a look at our website, it's posted there on the right-hand side. There's a facts sheet for START, which gives the breakdown of all the increments that an employer can expect as the apprentice progresses through their program. And we encourage employers and clients to contact us regarding apprenticeship. We'll set you up with an industry training consultant in your area and work your way through certification with your employer.
Thank you, Megan.
And that's everything from me. Thanks so much.
Thank you. That's a great overview. And just to put it into a bit more what we did, so we did have a previous webinar in the spring with Rans and Tyans about services and program that LSI has to help you. So in addition to what immigration and the apprenticeship agency offer today, so the province of Nova Scotia has a variety of hiring and training programs, services and supports to help businesses recruit, retain, and train the workforce they need. So what you want to do is go to that email address on the slide here to find all of those details. And on that, so I've been doing a lot of talking, and you're probably tired of hearing me talk. So we do have two, we're going to be doing a panel with two members of two employers that will be sharing their experiences on the immigration. So to start with, I'm going to start with Carol Logan. And Carol, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, and then we're going to be starting with a question, if you don't mind.
Great. Thank you, David, and thank you, Megan. So good morning, everyone. My name is Carol Logan, and I am the Director of Human Resources with two hotels here in Halifax, the Prince George Hotel and the Cambridge Suites Hotel. And happy to be here just to kind of share our current practices. So looking forward to some discussion, David.
Perfect. Good to know. So I'll jump right in. So you've been using immigration before?
Yes.
So can you tell us a bit about your experience when you've used those programs to, to fill labor needs and those positions that were had to fill?
Certainly. So for us in our hotels, I mean, we often talk a little bit about, pre-pandemic and post-pandemic and sort of where the labor was heading. And I know for the past number of years, we were always talking about this gap that was coming with a labor shortage. We just weren't producing enough labor locally in order to fill the gaps that we need. And very quickly, we were all looking to different initiatives to help fill these labor gaps. And immigration seemed to be a very effective stream. And when I look at just following the outside of COVID, because we typically were hiring temporary foreign workers, which was that a temporary foreign worker program. People would come, they work for a period of time, and they would go home. The pathways weren't as clear as they are set now. So our focus primarily has been on the Nova Scotia Provincial Nominee Program and the AIP program. Provincial nominee for our occupations in demand, so specifically for servers and light duty cleaners, and using the AIP for guest service agents and cooks and other positions of that nature. And really what I would say through my experience would be to really build those partnerships with the organizations that can help you, because it can be over daunting when you go on the website and you look at all this information. And we've invited people from the Nova Scotia Office of Immigration in to speak to our employees, to speak to our leaders, to speak to our teams, to help get educated on what this process looks like and how do we embark upon it. And then from there, it was building relationships with ISANS or the Y to help really understand that diversity and that culture in the workplace. So you want to set a foundation in your workplace first as to why you're doing this. Who are the new colleagues coming in? Who are the team members? So you're building that healthy workplace environment. And then from there, for us, it was really starting to look at our local universities, our community colleges, where we are tapping into talent with agencies like Teamwork and the Nova Scotia Works agencies, really making sure that our postings and our recruitment initiatives were focused on the local market and working with the internships and students that were coming to look for those opportunities. And then through that process and through the change in the labor market, it started happening really organically, where a lot of students were international students. A lot of the local market were people who were new to Nova Scotia and that were looking for a pathway through immigration. So by becoming designated, it became a way of retention and attraction for us. Meaning people were quickly going on the website, looking in Halifax, okay, who's a designated employer? And that's where people and applicants were starting to apply. So people were saying, I'm applying there because of the position you have available, but also I know that you can be part of my journey as I go through this immigration process. And so that really helped us start to find some talent. And what that started to do was a bit of a spin-off. So once we hired one or two people from a particular country, they told their friends who told their friends, or we hired a couple of people from a university who then told their colleagues or their classmates. And we really started to get a good flow of great talent. And then recently, with the situation that's happening globally in the federal government, bringing a large talent pool in from Ukraine, we are really able to fill some positions in the light duty cleaner position, so housekeepers. And before we knew it, we had 30 people from Ukraine working with us because we hired one or two, and they helped us do the recruiting. We did not have to allow our business not to fully operate it as we rebuilt from the pandemic, because this immigration population filled our gaps and filled our needs. And with that came really training and learning about diversity and workplace cultural programs. And so the designated program ties you to people that can help support that in your workplace. And that has really made us viable to be able to really engage a really diverse team. So I don't know if that's covering where you're looking for, but I could definitely say more, but it's start with one. Don't let it become overwhelming. Get your employer registration certificate, get online and learn how to do that piece. So you have that for the one program. For the second program, become designated. So you fill out your application, even if you don't have anybody or you don't know what's happening, get those designations and those certificates so that you can start to be prepared and you can be ready. Do some information sessions that are offered by both the Nova Scotia Office of Immigration, ISANS, the Y. Get engaged with somebody who can help walk you through that, one applicant at a time. And I think that that's the best advice I can give somebody is you're not in it alone. There's a lot of resources. When you call, people pick up the phone and they truly, truly want to help you. And I think that that is what's really helped us. We get questions that come up all the time. We look at a permit, we're not sure. We pick up the phone, we call, and very quickly the question is answered. And so it really helps support us. The other thing with those applications when you're applying online, the nominee officers are so helpful and friendly as well. You know, I know there's a lot of you're signing your initials and you think, oh my gosh, I just committed to so much. But you know, if you put a wrong date or you make a mistake, they'll just say, oh, could you please look at question 8 again? You might have missed that, or maybe it's not correct. You have opportunities to go back and forth with an officer and make those corrections when needed. But I have to say, without foreign nationals, I'm not sure where our business would be especially following the pandemic, because we know hospitality and tourism was hit so hard, and a lot of other businesses really got to reap. A lot of other sectors get great hospitality professionals. So it has really been beneficial to us.
Thank you. That's a great answer. So we're really understanding that the benefits of relationship and building partnerships with semi-private organizations, with labor skills and immigration, and all the different actors in that sphere, including newcomers, because like you said, one can refer you to their families or their friends, and then you start building that network. And also, I really kind of like what you said about, you have to start with one. It is daunting. It's a lot, but get it started, and that's where we have the support to help you starting that one and get your foot in the door, basically.
Absolutely. Great. And there's so many, I just want to mention one other thing. We recently just started building a partnership with labor skills and immigration and with workers' compensation around safety for newcomers in the workplace, and now starting even to create safety messages in various languages that employers can utilize. So those partnerships are out there. It's just a matter of how do we connect, and I think it's webinars and discussions like we're having here today to kind of help put the tools in the right hands for employers to help with that efficiency and to kind of make it, I want to say easier, but to really simplify it a little bit and support.
Great, thank you. And you've touched on this a bit already, but how has hiring newcomers and hiring immigrants changed or evolved for your business? Because you're diversifying your workforce. So how has this changed your business?
Well, I would say our reputation as a business is really positive in the local community, and probably even a bit larger within Canada, because we've become known as an employer who welcomes diversity into our workplace, who trains, who educates, and who fosters that learning. And also the guests and the clients who are staying with us tend to see that diversity, people who speak many languages, can better service our guests, and those cultural awareness as we call upon our cooks who are multi-talented. I think we mentioned in our culinary team, we have over 15 different countries represented. So when we are hosting and we are doing business with our guests, they really get a great culinary experience based on the talent of the team. And I think that our business, it has made it easier to recruit. People tend to like to go and work where they see people who reflect who they are or doing what they're doing. Even internally, it has opened the doors for people who typically never saw them in a particular position say, oh, I could be a night auditor. Oh, I could do that. They build that confidence. They build that relationship. But the biggest success is that organically, it has attracted more applicants to our business because of the diversity, which makes our business stronger.
Great. Well, thank you, Carol. Thank you so much for agreeing to talk to us today about your experience.
Oh, you are welcome. I would encourage people to pick up the phone, call people, call local employers. We can help each other.
Absolutely. Networking is key.
You're right, for sure.
Perfect. Thank you, Carol. And with that, we'll be welcoming Dan Gignac, our next panelist. So Dan, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Well, thank you, David. I'm the Chief People Officer with Murphy Hospitality Group. So we operate actually in all 4 Atlantic provinces in a few different divisions. So we have about 20 restaurants, 4 hotels, including a Nordic Spa here in PEI, breweries, and events. And let me just start by saying, I should have asked to go first. I think Carol nailed it. And I'm not sure how much I could actually add to that description and the value that Carol brought there to the discussion. And I, sort of check it off my notes as I go. You didn't leave me much ground, Carol, to cover, but certainly have a lot of similarity in the experience we've had, with the programs as well, and agree with Carol as well that some of this was born out of necessity. Certainly coming out, in 2022, I think, I'm assuming everyone on the call here had a similar experience, but a real shortage in a lot of areas, impacting, restaurants quite a lot, in terms of seeing, reduced hours, reduced menu offerings, and it hurt a lot of businesses trying to find. And obviously, government was aware of that, and has including, I think you mentioned, David, turning some of the pilot programs into permanent programs, and help, with the lobbying. I know Nova Scotia Restaurant Association doing some great lobbying on our behalf as well to kind of make sure the government's aware of some of the struggles we were going through. So yeah, Murphy, I mean, we have a lot of ground to cover, and I would say the first thing for me in developing an HR strategy was making sure that immigration and mobility, and so mobility is kind of the stuff all around the programs, things like picking people up at the airport and helping them get their bank accounts set up or whatever that might be, is part of it as well. Helping people integrate into the workforce, whether they're here as a student and now joining the workforce or whatever. So it's drastically become a big part of our strategy and a big part of the work that the team does here. It's a lot of, especially with the AIP, a lot of getting all of our different locations, 30 plus locations designated, taking the training. And I could still say none of us are experts. But again, I agree with Carol, start with one, work your way through the process, learn from it, document things as you go. Certainly for us, there's the managers as well have we've had a lot of training and meetings with the managers because they have a lot of questions. Restaurant general managers and stuff have a lot of people coming up to them saying, I want to go through AIP, and them saying, okay, let me let me reach out to the HR team and see how that might work, right? But certainly it's been a competitive advantage for us. Again, agreeing with Carol that you have a few people join and have a positive experience, and then a bunch of other people all of a sudden are knocking on the door, and a lot of that comes with the designation process. So once word travels that you're designated, it's a big thing, especially the AIP, because I think obviously it's a bit easier on the candidate or the employee side, being an employer-led process. They're quite aware of that as well. I would say, but it's a lot less work for them. Makes it more attractive, especially if you're a student and working. It can be daunting for the employee as well, trying to figure out all the different steps they need to take to be successful. So having an employer-led, I find, makes it more attractive for them. Now, I will say it creates quite a lot of work and drain, especially administratively on the team here. So I've had to really try and build capacity for them to spend some time on this. And frankly, I've had a few people say, "Wow, it's so much administrative work." But just reminding them how important it is, because of the makeup of the workforce, and how much demand and what a competitive advantage it brings to have a team that understands these programs and is able to speak to them, with our workforce. So it's been critical for us.
Thank you. And it's great to point out that it's with immigration, the way to look at it is that there are multiple options. There's only one pathway to go through, and then understanding those different options and knowing what could work for you and what would work best for you is actually key. And it always comes down to support and where can you find the support. So it could be building a team internally, could be reaching out to us, to providers. So there's different type of people involved in that work for sure. And for you, Dan, how in terms of diversifying your workplaces, how have you seen your business evolve? What has changed?
Yeah, well, that's been one of the most exciting parts of it is you know, the diversification of the business. Um, you know, one thing we're actually looking at doing here pretty soon is a big potluck at the brewery. So for all our hotels and restaurants for folks to come and share their, you know, make a dish from their home country and connect everyone together, and have a big potluck and let them make connections as well. So just you could see the different energy it's brought to some of our restaurants and hotels, just having a diverse, you know, workforce, different points of view, different ideas folks have brought from their home countries, you know, culinary being one, but also, you know, other, you know, what I find is we have a lot of folks that are working for us that are, you know, it's the typical immigration issue of being a bit overqualified for some of the work that they're doing. And you know, we have some housekeepers that come to mind who are lawyers in their previous. So I mean, relying on those folks to bring new ideas to the workforce. So it's been great to see that, you know, the different diversification of our workplaces.
Thank you. So you're really seeing an advantage of having that immigration on top of, you know, like you said, it is changing. Like the business, the way we do business and the way we hire, our recruitment process, everything is changing and evolving, but it's for the better.
100%. And you know, I don't really know where we would be without it, to be honest. I just don't see. I know at one point this summer we, you know, we'll peak around 1,000 employees in the summer, and I know that over 30% of that were you know, folks that were here on work permits. So it's a, you know, again, that's 300 plus people that, you know, I'm not sure where, you know, where our workforce would have come from otherwise. So it's essential. And one thing just to emphasize as well is the supports that are out there. I would say that's one area we probably haven't done as good as we can, in understanding the different, you know, people and websites and all the stuff that you've shared. I was kind of making some notes as we went as well that you know, it's critical. There's so much support out there, so you're not alone in getting started in these processes.
Thank you. So I have one last question. What would be your top one advice or trick that you could give to other employers on the line? So it's a question to both of you.
Well, the biggest piece of advice is, look, you're probably not going to be able to become an expert on this. It's an ever-changing thing. It's very, especially in multiple provinces, it's something that's always changing. And you know, there's folks like David who spend full time keeping up on this stuff, and most of us don't have time to, you know, to really dig in and become specialized or experts in this field. So rely on the experts, network, and reach out and just you know, just ask questions. And you know, like Carol said, just jump in, start the process, and learn as you go.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer, Dan. And you know, just really ask for help. I think we sometimes get caught up in doing stuff that we don't pause to sort of say, hey, oh, I have a contact. I can call somebody and get some help to get started, and use those resources that are out there to help. We know that the labor market is not shifting. We are going to get more international and foreign nationals coming to fill these jobs. And so try to get ahead of that rush now. When the students come out and they start looking for the placements, they're all going to be asking these questions. And so build those relationships now so that you have the information and you have that baseline. And, you know, partner with other employers who are doing it, partner with organizations who can help you. I'm thinking of like Halifax Partnership, and I know definitely the Office of Immigration and ISANS and the Y. They offer the settlement services. So kind of go to those information sessions, or find somebody who has a strength or knowledge on your team that can help you with that process. Sometimes we'll pull in a frontline employee who might help with in the interview process to explain it because they speak the same language. So it's utilizing the talent we have to best educate. And the other thing that I found very helpful is is asking the new employee, because they're smart and they know the information and they know what's required, to start putting their documents together, to start thinking about what that process looks like them, what pathway they're looking at, and start thinking about that now so they can start to kind of map it out as to what that looks like.
That's a great point as well. I think a big part of it is setting expectations. Setting expectations with the perspective or the employee, with your managers. Especially if we're all expected to do more with less these days. And if you're on the line and you're a one-person HR department or something, knowing how administratively intense the AIP can get. There's times, for us, for example, you have to work for MHG for 6 months before we'll start the PR process, as an example. So we've had to create some guidelines and expectations, and that will help you, but you may have to wait. And like Carol said, on your side, there's work you need to do, to pull together the required paperwork and documents and whatnot. And a typical scenario for us would be, we'll get an email from a cook that says, "Hi, I work at such and such location, and I want to stay in Canada." And it's like, okay, well, once the team has 30 or 40 of those in the inbox, it can get quite overwhelming, because you don't know where to start. And again, part of that's putting the expectations back on the employee and say, okay, what kind of work permit are you on, and start collecting your documents, do some research, here's some links, and that's set up a time to talk. But you have to take some personal responsibility in this process as well, even in the employer-led programs.
And the other piece is people who are going through this journey of being able to stay, that process can be a couple of years long. So that retention and that commitment and that support and having that employee really for a minimum of 2 years, that's a win in hospitality, where we've had so much turnover and so much movement. So to know that you're going to get an employee and kind of manage that through your initiatives as you look at your talent.
Very well, thank you. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Dan, for sharing your experiences with us today and those tips. Those are great tips. And that brings us actually to the end of the webinar. So I'll maybe calling on back Natasha and Lynn, and probably opening the floor up for questions if anyone has any questions.
And I'll just take a look and see if anybody does. And David Lee. David, did you have a question for our panelists?
We like questions.
Please don't be shy. Yes.
David, you're on mute there. I don't know if you are asking a question, but
If you can't ask, you can always type it.
See his hand raised.
I know. Nope, maybe he doesn't anymore.
might have still been up from earlier when
Yeah, that's right. Might not have a question. Okay.
He's on muted now. I'm not sure if
Sorry, I don't have any questions.
Okay.
I apologize. And
That's okay.
we do have high field employee through ARP, and but mostly is international student over here CBU, and we are really happy with the ARP program. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are really happy with CBU students.
Thanks, Carol.
We already said
great
it.
little plug.
Students are a great pool of talent that you could pick from. And I was thinking of, I didn't mention before, but there's another type of open work permit that's called the working holiday visa. So Canada, I know Canada has agreement with like over 30 countries where youth, usually it's between 18 and 30, they can come and have a working holiday visa. So it's an open work permit that allows them to work for like up to 1 or 2 years. I don't exactly remember, but they're also they're great for working, in the service industry and in the restoration industry, because they will be looking for like summer jobs. So they're a great way to find people.
Absolutely.
Yes, and I heard this program, but I cannot find where I can find the people from I mean worker study or worker visa.
So it
I
depends on the country where they're from, but some countries have it better organized than others. I can only speak about so the French people from France who apply for the working holiday visa, they have a specific website that they go through. It started small, but now it's getting like it's getting a big website where employers can post positions on there. So you could get it could be another way of connecting to those people. It's just a matter of finding where the website are and who they are, and just to connect with them. The best way would be to contact IRCC because it's a federal program, and they would have more information on where to post, where to find those working holiday visa workers.
Okay, thanks. Natasha, did you have any final thoughts before we wrap up? I don't see any other questions, but I'll keep an eye on that.
No, I didn't see anything come up in the chat either. Yeah, no more final thoughts, and unless if we're ready to wrap up, we can do our closing and our thank yous. So just a huge thank you to all of the attendees for joining us today. David, Megan, Carol, Dan, especially for speaking. Such great, valuable information. And I know this is such important information to get out there. So thank you for sharing your experiences as well, because I think it's really, really helpful to hear that firsthand experience and how others have been using these processes. All of that said, Lynn, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we did record this, so we'll be sharing the presentation. I know Tyanzi, you'll probably be sending that out. Rands will make sure to share this on our website, newsletter, because there's some folks that wanted to join that couldn't today, so we'll make sure the information gets out there. So all of that said, we're wrapping up right on time, 11 a.m. Just huge thank you to everyone. Really appreciate your time this morning.
Thanks again to Carol and Dan, and I'm just going to put a couple of plugs in for 2 additional webinars coming up this week. One is on Wednesday on privacy, and you can email angela@tourism.ca to register. And the other is our 4th and last webinar on our health and safety series, which is on Thursday. So you can email myself, lynn@tourism.ca, for registration information on that. And once again, to echo Natasha, thanks everyone for joining us. We did record this, and we will have it available either later this week or early next week for distribution. So thanks again to everyone. Thanks, Carol and Dan, and enjoy the rest of your Monday and week.
Have a great week.